You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
Welcome back, Pods fans, to another episode of Ring the Bell Pods Talk. Nick Kreider here, joined as always by Heath Bell. Fernando Tatis has apologized to the media and to the fans and to his teammates. It says that he had a 20-plus minute meeting, all players, to discuss what happened in the steroid use and to apologize. And the players are on his side, and it looks like they're backing him. Joe Musgrove and Manny Machado both came out and said that, they're going to support him. Heath, how do you think that meeting went down with the players?
Well, I think it was a disappointing meeting. I think it brought our morale down, even though our morale sucks right now as a Padres. I respect Tatis for apologizing. He didn't necessarily have to. He talked to the players. I think I give him kudos for that. But I saw the video of him apologizing, and I try to give him the benefit of the doubt that, okay, maybe it was a language barrier, but then I'm like, okay, if there's a language barrier, because this is a major thing, we would have an interpreter. There was no interpreter, so I'm pretty sure he knows English very well. And I took it as he got in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
He's in timeout, like you kind of said earlier. He's a little kid that, mom and dad got mad at him or something, and he can't go out and play anymore. Like he said at the very end that, he's going to have shoulder surgery, and that's a good thing.
Finally.
But what's that?
Finally, he's having shoulder surgery.
I think the Padres literally said, look, you're doing this. I think the Padres are his dad, or like Pedro Martinez would say, your daddy, and say, you can't go back to the Dominican this offseason, because he was like, I'm going to have shoulder surgery in this offseason. I guess I'm going to be in San Diego most of the offseason. Why do we need to know that? The only reason he said that is because he's being punished and he's trying to say what they told him to say.
Right.
So
he's
just
trying to win back brownie points with the organization and the fans.
Yeah, it's not like, well, I'm, because here's the thing. He could have said, look, I made a mistake. I apologize to the fans. I apologize to the owner, everybody, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to work really hard to come back healthy. I'm going to get surgery that I've needed. I'm going to use this time to try to become the best player I can be for the Padres and the cleanest player, and vow that this will never happen again and how wrong I was and drugs are not good. But it didn't. It sounded like he was literally, mom and dad scolded him and then came out, and then he had to talk to his friends. Tatis is young, but when do we say he's too young? Machado got the big leagues when he was 19. He didn't have any of this issue. There's some other guys that have got,
Soto,
early.
Juan Soto.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, I hate that we're still talking about Tatis, but it's a topic that I think I think Tatis is one of the reasons the Padres are sucking right now. Do the Padres have the talent? Yes. All right. Have they put it together in the last month or so? No. Can they get hot at the end? Yes, but they're falling, and they have out of the Atlanta Braves, the Phillies, Milwaukee, and San Francisco. They have the hardest last month of the season out of any of them. The hardest schedule. I think it's 14 games against the Dodgers. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
13 or 14. It's just like, oh my gosh.
And we've lost I think 15 in the last 16 to them. So not a good trend.
It's not even we're playing 500 with them. So gosh,
I'll give you an example. Playing 100 with them.
Remember Pablo Sandoval when he was really good with the Giants and they were winning? There was this thing that he would gain like 40 pounds every offseason. So when he was starting to get arbitration and contracts before he left and went to the Red Sox, the Giants basically said, look, you're not going to Venezuela. You're going to have to stay 2 weeks in San Diego. Then we'll let you go to Venezuela for a week. And then you have to stay 2 weeks. That was the only way they could regimen how this guy eats. And I've heard Pablo, I heard stories. I don't know if it's true, but I heard stories that like he would have 2 large pizzas for dinner.
That's insane.
I'm like, even in my best day, I would get a whole one down, but that was like, and I was full, and it was like pushing it. Now it's like the mini ones I'm full with that, but it's just like,
Oh, that cheese, man.
and Pablo, he's a big guy. So it's just one of those things. I mean, I love the guy to death, but he had a weight issue. I mean, maybe Tatis has a growing up issue. Maybe he'll never grow up. I mean, I'm hoping he will, but like I said, San Diego is going to have to like put him on a curfew, I guess.
Yeah.
The easiest way to say it. I mean, it's hate to say that he's 23 or 23, 24.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give a curfew to somebody that's 23 years old.
Yeah. I'm paraphrasing here, but Pedro Martinez said on I think it was MLB Network, wherever he is on his panel, that Tatis is young and dumb, that he's basically been this, superstar profile kid since he was a teenager. And at some point, you got to listen to your people. You got to listen to your teammates. You got to listen to your organization. And you got to stop being this all knowing, rich kid, son of a superstar,
Yep.
this kid with all this talent. So he's like, Tatis, you're not dumb. But when I say young and dumb, I'm saying that you need to grow up. And that's coming from Pedro Martinez,
And
a
I think that's
legendary
coming
Latin
from
player.
all of us. I mean, we're just seeing it. I think Pedro knows him a little bit more because he probably saw him when he was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But he's had no accountability until today. And you could see it that, like I said, it seemed like the Padres, the owners, I bet you AJ Preller didn't even get mad at him, was disappointed, shook his head down, didn't yell at him. I bet you the owners came in there and said, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I mean, they have every right to. I mean, like, what the hell were you thinking, man?
Mm-hmm. It's like getting invited to like an expensive dinner and you get the steak and you get the bottle service and you make a fool out of the dinner and you mess up the whole evening.
Yeah. And then he had to apologize. And I felt like the apologize was general. Like it was sincere, but it almost felt like he was told to apologize. Not that he really, really wanted to apologize. Does that make sense? Like I feel like the apology was like he was sorry. He truly was sorry. He wasn't just saying it to say it, but he said it because they made him say it.
Of course.
I think if it was up to him, he would just not say anything and just go disappear for 80 days or whatnot.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it's coming down to trying to protect the legacy for the future, right? Win as many brownie points and win as many people back as possible so you can get that Hall of Fame career back on track. And I know that's
Hall of
crazy
Fame
to
career,
say.
honestly, is tarnished. It's gone.
I think there's a lot of time for him to gain the respect back. I mean, he's so young. I mean,
he can have a great career.
By the time he retires, that could be 15 years from now. People could totally forget about all this. He was 23 years old. It was a healing cream. It's not like, Roger or Andy or Barry
how do we know
McGuire that were doing it.
What if they did a healing cream and they just kept doing it while they played?
Yeah, but I mean,
here's the thing: without Roger, never admitted to it,
right?
And he never tested positive. So why are we talking about Roger? I mean, Andy Pettit's the only one that's admitted.
You're right.
So if we're going to forget about it, then we got to forget about Barry Bonds. We got to forget about Pete Rose betting on baseball. We got to forget about everything.
Yeah. Well, how are there exceptions then? I mean, David Ortiz is in there.
I know. And I'm a big believer that Pete Rose, the day he dies, that the next day he'll be in the Hall of Fame. I feel like the guys just don't want to give him the satisfaction. I feel like the writers don't want to give the satisfaction to Barry or McGuire or Roger or those other guys.
Schilling's not even a steroid user. And
it's just like, I mean, even there was talks about Mike Piazza was on steroids, and I don't think it was. I don't think he was, but he's in the Hall. But it's like we're making these guys guilty, but we didn't. But they never were. They never were guilty in when they got tested or whatever they did. Now there's certain guys that did get caught, like A-Rod and stuff, but unless you were caught, that's the exception. But here's it's one of those things that it's all messy with the Hall of Fame and all this. And this is why I said last time with Tatis, this is going to linger over him for a very long time.
Yeah.
There's going to be certain writers, because they have the vote for the Hall of Fame, that are not going to forget about it. And they're going to write and they say, you know what, maybe on his 10th year, I'll vote for him or something if he goes off and has an unbelievable career or something like that. But
the thing I think he's got working for him is that, okay, let's say he plays till he's 40. Is that okay to say?
okay.
Maybe like late 30s. So that's
Yeah.
15 plus years. And then
Yeah.
you get on the ballot how many years after you retire? 4
5.
years after? 5 years after? Okay. So we're looking about 20 years from now. How many of those writers are going to be dead by then?
Honestly, I mean, only probably about 10%.
You think?
There's a lot of young writers out there.
I feel like there's a lot of old writers right now, though, that cast the ballots. And I think
Well,
that's partially the reason why these old school rules are still getting,
we should have a writer
linger.
on one of these shows, because we should talk about it, because I believe the players should get a third of the vote. I believe, if you play 10 years, you can play if you played against that guy, even if it was for 1 year, you get a vote.
Right.
And I think the coaches, the same thing, get votes. And then you could put players in there too. But like if the players and coaches think he's a Hall of Famer, doesn't matter what the fans think. I just think the writers, it's not right, because writers they've had problems with certain people.
Big time.
And just because they didn't get a good interview, or they were mean to him.
Yeah, it's so biased.
So he goes, I'm not going to vote him. It's just like when Greg Maddux, what was it, 4 writers? I think it was 2 or 4 that were saying nobody deserves a first time, like everybody vote for him, and then the Hall of Fame got rid of those 4. And then Mo Rivera got the first time everybody voted.
Yeah, unanimous.
But the thing is Greg Maddux should have had it. And the other ones just got together and said, well, nobody should do that. Why? Because I want people to know my name. I want to write a story about it.
Right. Well, that's the problem with so many writers these days, is when they cast their ballots, sometimes they go out there and put just the most ridiculous ballots out there for clickbait. Like there's a guy who votes for Jeff Kent and only Jeff Kent every single season.
Yeah. I think Jeff Kent's a Hall of Famer, but he's right on the cusp, but it's just that point. They need to change. The Hall of Fame needs to change it. Because there's guys I played against that just were filthy, that were just good. And
yeah,
if players think you're a Hall of Famer, I think you should be a Hall of Famer. Not fans, because fans are your.
Look, you guys have the biggest opinion out of everybody. You're the ones that played the game. You're the ones that shaped the game of baseball, and
you played against you guys.
Exactly. Moving on to another topic, though, because Tatis and the Hall of Fame, that's a long ways away, and just Tatis's return is a long ways away. The Padres have been struggling immensely on the offensive side of things. Their pitching's been looking great. They won 2-1 twice against the Nationals, but they've also gotten shut out. They also put up 2 runs. They also put up 2 runs. They put up 1 run against the Guardians. I was talking to a friend last night, and he said, what is it with San Diego? And when guys come over, they stop hitting. Like, is there something in the air? Is it Petco Park? Is there like a certain breeze that knocks the ball down or something? Because we've never really been known as an offensive team.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
So are you asking me that question?
Yeah.
So this is what I believe. I think, okay, so I've heard in San Francisco, when guys get traded to San Francisco, when you're taking batting practice, and I know this to be true during batting practice and playing, the ball does not carry during batting practice. You hit a ball, it's not going to go anywhere.
Too close to the water? Too much humidity?
Just the way the wind is. And it's something to do with the humidity, wind, or whatever. But when it's a night game, and then it goes to night when the game starts. So you're hitting at 4:00 is different than when you're hitting at 7 and 8 o'clock. Mm-hmm. So guys come in and they hit in San Francisco, and they're like, man, I thought I got that one. And I've heard the coaches tell them, or other players said, don't worry about it. Don't change your swing. It's going to change at nighttime. At night, that ball will leave the yard. So they're preaching it hit you swing, keep swinging the exact same way. Okay. So it's like when, this is the thing happens. People come in, and sometimes this happens at Petco Park and San Francisco. They hit a ball, it doesn't go out. So they're going to swing harder next time. Well, when you start swinging harder or trying to throw harder, it messes up with your mechanics. Then you actually swing slower. Ball doesn't go as far because it's all about bat speed. Well, when I was in San Diego, Adrian Gonzalez, great hitter, would always tell me, well, it's different hitting here. It's different hitting here. I'm like, well, what's the difference? It's so big. Well, if it's so big, then why can't we have more singles, more doubles? It doesn't impute it. And then he had this formula math, and all of a sudden we were supposed to hit. And then I did it actually me and the bullpen did it during a game. And then after the game, I brought it to him and I said, so with your math, we were supposed to have 700 home runs as a team. And he's like, no. I'm like, no, this is legitimately your math. Look at it on a piece of paper. We wrote it out. And I wish I still had that paper, but because it was something formula like our fences are so far, this and that. But like, here's the thing. If you look in 06, 7, and 8, who had more home runs hit? Petco Park, San Francisco, or Dodger Stadium?
I mean, I'm assuming probably us, maybe Dodger Stadium.
It was Petco Park had more home runs hit than those two stadiums. Well, if it's so hard to hit home runs at Petco Park, why are they hitting more home runs in Petco Park than Dodger Stadium and in San Francisco?
That's our team, or you're talking about just as a total?
Just as a team.
Anyone
both
who comes in.
teams.
Okay.
The visiting team and the home team combined, just home runs in general. So what I think happens is, guys come to Petco Park, and it's a bigger ballpark like Atlanta and LA.
Right. Which they've brought in the dimensions in since the start.
Exactly. And it doesn't help. So this leads me to believe as they're telling you to hit the ball farther, or this launch angle stuff is not good. And back in the day, it was all about hit the ball with backspin. If it's got backspin, it's like a fastball, it's going to go farther. Now it's all about launch angle. So if you hit a ball up high in the air, maybe it's not going to go, but if you hit a line drive, it's going to go. And I believe that the Padres have had so many hitting coaches over the years. There's a reason why our hitters aren't doing well. You look at other hitting coaches around the league or teams that hit,
it's consistent.
Their hitting coach stays there. So I don't know if I know we've had some hitting coaches at the front office was like, you guys need to do stuff to the guys, blah, blah, blah. And I remember Sandy Aldridge telling our young hitters, he's with the Mets now, but he was telling our young hitters, hey, it's easier hitting in the big leagues, isn't it? And he goes, what are you talking about? And he goes, they throw more strikes. So if they throw more strikes, it must be easier to hit. Well, no, they throw more strikes, but the ball moves more. And I just believe that it's our hitting philosophy in San Diego. And I don't want to knock our hitting coach now or hitting coaches in the past, but it's one of those things. What's his motto? We need to find a good hitting coach that knows how, because here's the thing. If we're not hitting power numbers, in theory, let's just say Petco's a really big park. Ball should fall more, right? Unless we're hitting a lot of pop-ups.
Right.
In theory, just think about it.
Definitely.
If we're just trying to hit base hits and not try to hit home runs, because somebody asked me, well, why the young kids get called up and they have 30 home runs in AA and AAA, but then they get to the big leagues and they only have like 5 or 6, is because AA is a small ballpark, so is AAA, and the ball carries. It flies out. So when they come to Petco, the wind doesn't blow straight out. It doesn't blow in. There's really no wind. There's a little bit of wind, like, blowing center before it gets dark time, before like the first 2 or 3 innings. But after that, there's really no breeze from the coast, because I just think the way our stadium is, the wind doesn't blow. It doesn't blow through it. And it doesn't push the ball down, but it's just one of those things that I believe it's the hitting philosophy, because Dodger Stadium is bigger than Petco Park. They're hitting more home runs. San Francisco is the same. San Francisco has a lot of wind, like Wrigley Field. The wind's always blowing. If it's blowing in, there's no chance you're hitting a home run. If it's blowing out, all you got to do is hit the ball up in the air at Wrigley, and the ball just carries. So, the Padres have moved the fences in. They've done this. They've tried to help the hitters out. I just believe the hitters are trying to hit home runs, and any great hitter will tell you when they're trying to hit home runs, they don't hit home runs. When they're just trying to hit the ball hard and they're just trying to hit backspin, that's when they hit the ball out.
Is there anything to do with the batter's view or the batter's eye? Maybe like because it's such an open layout in center field that could be distracting?
The only thing I've ever heard about that was when Randy Johnson, when Petco first opened, the backstop, the hit batter's eye. Like now there's bushes on the right and left.
Mm-hmm.
Where Randy Johnson used to pitch, and he was so tall, and so he threw from 3/4 from the side. It would come out from the sky, so they had to put trees up. But he was the only one, and there's no pitcher like that. I really believe it's the philosophy. I mean, how many times have you seen this year that we're swinging at the first pitch, or we're not swinging at the first pitch? It's like okay, guys, don't swing at the first pitch, just look at it, and then all of a sudden everybody's just not swinging at the first pitch, and then strike one, strike one, strike one. Then it's like, okay, let's just jump on it. I mean, every philosophy we're doing is not working.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes to the minor leagues. It goes to spring training. What is your philosophy? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many Padres hitting coaches there have been within the last, I guess 20 years. But
I'd put a number and I'd say 15 or more.
Let's see. I'll count it right now. So
I was there for 5 years and we had, I think, 5.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. That's 15 in 20 years.
There you go. Do you think that's a good thing? Forget about our manager.
Terrible. And you know why our pitching's so consistent? Darren Balsley was there from 2003 to 2019.
He had a philosophy. Guys, we're going to do this. I came from New York, and everybody's like, Balsley's a little weird, but don't worry. He knows what he's talking about. Just trust him. And if everybody's telling you that, you're like, okay, as a hitter, it's the same way. His philosophy it's a little bit out there. The way he says stuff's out there, but it works. I guarantee we're probably going to have another hitting coach next year. And guess what? It's going to be another philosophy. Okay, then it's like, okay, last year was this. Okay, this year's this. It might help one or two guys, but it's not going to help the whole team. It's not going to help the organization. We need to find somebody, overpay them or something. I don't know, steal them from some other organization and just say, this is what we're doing. Don't get somebody that some organization just got rid of, because that guy's not
right.
Find somebody that he's trying to negotiate a contract and go and pay him twice as much as what he's going over there and say, come over here. I'll give you a 4-year deal. Or a 3-year deal or something. I mean, we have to find a philosophy in San Diego to hit. We have good hitters, but I almost feel like nobody's telling Tatis how to hit. Nobody's telling Manny how to hit. Nobody's telling Soto how to hit. Nobody's telling Cronenworth how to hit. Nobody's telling Eric Hosmer how to hit. Nobody's telling Will Myers how to hit. How Profar how to hit. Or they're telling Profar and Cronenworth, and that's it.
Right. Just the young guys.
Yeah, and like Manny Machado, like Manny, you kind of like, you watch him, you don't tell him how to hit, but he's been around the league where you're like, okay, tell me what your good things are and your bad things, and I'll help you. I'll notice when you're doing your bad things. What are your bad tendencies? It's like, well, my shoulder flies open when I'm not doing well. Otherwise it stays in, and then I'm usually seeing the ball real well. All right, I'll pay attention to that.
Right.
Soto's still young. You kind of go to him as respect that he's doing, as a young talent. What does he do good? What does he do bad? But you should also look at videotape and see what he's done good and what he's done bad. Same thing with Tatis. Same thing with every other player in there, even Will Myers, that's been around for a while. But like Grissom has had a horrible year, hitting wise. Has anybody tried to change him yet? Or
his swing looks very different than it did for the past 2 years. It's a little bit more compact and I think he's got like more of a crouch in his stance. I watched a comparison the other day, but he's hitting way worse than he's ever hit.
But what he's doing this year isn't working. So you need to, like, who told him to do that from the previous years? And then why'd you keep sticking with it? If you keep sticking with it and it was our hitting coach, well, then there's a reason why our hitting coach isn't doing well.
Well, our hitting coach, as I mentioned, when he first got hired, was 27 years old, and he's 28 years old now. And there's a lot of guys on this team that are older than him as well. So there's a level of respect, I think, that you have to gain and trust that you have to gain and seniority. And maybe a young guy is not the guy to bring a team's philosophy back.
I don't want to say anything, but this goes back. I'm going to say it, but I don't use names because I don't want to dog anybody except for AJ. AJ's the one who hired him. If you're all about Moneyball, you're all about cybermetrics, you're all about, well, the number game, on base percentage more than batting average. A walk is just as good as a hit. And I'm pretty sure that's how his philosophy is, our hitting coach. I bet you, I mean, honestly, I'll be real honest. I teach 14-year-old kids and high school kids, and I tell kids, I can help you with your hitting if you want, because I'm a pitcher and I studied hitters, this and that. But I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm a C+ hitting coach, but I know some A+ hitting coaches. Like, I'm pretty good if you're like 10 years old or 12 years old, and I can teach you when you get older, when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, what the pitcher's going to try to do to you. So what the concept is of what you want to try to do against him, blah, blah, blah. But to break down your swing, I'm not the best one to break down your swing. You need to find a really good hitting coach.
Right.
Where I think a lot of hitting, I could easily go, well, I was in the big leagues, I study hitters, I know how to teach hitting. Well, I know how to teach hitting in basic, but when you get to high school and you really start breaking the swings down, I could tell you, I could teach you the opposite, what you should be thinking. Well, the pitcher's going to try to do this against me, so this is what I should try to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm going to try to, in this situation, the pitcher's going to try to get you to hit the ball the other way. So you really need to drive it the other way and don't try to pull it, because if you pull it, you're going to roll over or you're going to pop it up. So that concept, the mental part, I can teach you really well, but I'm not going to blow smoke up your butt and say, well, yeah, I know more than you. I mean, you really think our hitting coach is telling Soto how to hit, Manny how to hit?
No chance.
Even Profar how to hit, or Will Myers? He's not telling any of those guys. You think he was helping? He was Eric Hosmer. Like, he's probably just throwing flips and saying, okay, you're hitting the ball good, hit solid, square it up. Well, shit, anybody's dad can say, square the ball up.
Yeah.
You got to break the swings down. And that's what's happening in San Diego right now. We're just seeing bad hitting. I mean, if you look at everybody in the playoff race right now, except for the Padres, everybody's got at least two guys hitting 300.
Right. We got one guy right now.
And that's it. And when he falls and doesn't hit, we don't hit. And like you said, our pitching's been pretty good lately. I would say our bullpen's been really good lately. That's another thing I want to talk about. But
besides Hader,
starting pitching can be a little bit better. It seems like right at the very end they struggle. We need to pull them out after 70, 80 pitches. We don't need to always get to 100 pitches. But it's one of those things that we need a hitting coach.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
We just need a hitting coach.
We're number one in the league in men left on base this season, which is, you cannot have that happen if you want to be a playoff team. We're getting guys on base, but we're just not driving them in.
Well, that's when pitchers, they pitch their thing and then they bear down and they make sure they're bearing down a little bit more when somebody gets on base. Well, our hitters are like, unfortunately, good pitching beats good hitting every day of the week.
Yep.
And if we're going to get to the playoffs, we're going to see nothing but good pitching.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to happen. And the Padres, come on, we got to do something. Otherwise it's going to be something like, we fall. I got a bad feeling we're not going to make playoffs. Really bad feeling, just because if we don't turn things around.
Yeah, I sure hope we do. But you said you want to talk about the bullpen. Josh Hader in his 5 games with the Padres has a 16.2 ERA. What's going on there?
I think the philosophy of pitching has been a little bit different here. To me, he's looked a little bit different. I don't think he's I don't know him at all. So, but when you switch teams, sometimes the pitching coach has a different philosophy and different way to go after. I mean, I remember when I switched teams, they didn't talk about like, my biggest thing was, who could I throw a first pitch breaking ball to? Right. And a lot of teams didn't have those stats. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I need to know what first pitch breaking ball, what the percentage of swinging it at. And it was like, well, my older team, I'd say like San Diego had that. But that was something that, I kind of started in San Diego. So I don't know if they still do it. And then also what we started in San Diego, I think it was Mike Adams started this. He said guys hit different. And we kind of agreed. He was talking about it. The first three, like the first inning, their first at bat, their second at bat, the next, 3 innings, and then the last 3 innings, their last at bat or their fourth at bat.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're a little bit more aggressive at the end of the game than they are in the beginning of the game. It's like they're 80% more aggressive to swing at first pitch in the 8th or 9th inning. But in the first or second, the first inning, they're like 20%. And they're only 30% in the 4th or 5th inning. So like their second at bat. But overall, they're about 40%. Or you could even say 50%. But at the end of the game, it's 80%. Or, they don't swing at all. They're at 20% because they want to see the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that I know Mike Adams used to want to see that. So then, I kind of carried it. That was really good information too. Well, do they still do that? I mean, Milwaukee, I don't know what Milwaukee does. And I don't know what San Diego does now. But it looks like to me, it's been a little different. And then this is really what chaps my hide. So Hader, he's pitched. I know he hasn't pitched the best. Okay. But you could throw some bullpens and talk to him and say, okay, what's going on, man? Are you just not feeling right with the catcher? What's the deal? Because when you don't have a good catcher and you're trying to throw a certain pitch, I remember in Arizona, there was a time the catcher and I just didn't see eye to eye. Or even like in Miami with John Buck. And it was hard to pitch because it seemed like I was shaking off every pitch. I'm like, dude, are you not on the same page with me? Where the catcher's like, no, listen to me. I'm like, well, it's my career. Let me throw what I want to throw. So there's that going back and forth. That could be going back and forth,
Yeah. I think getting a catcher in the offseason is a big priority for us.
But here's the what chaps my hide is the manager comes and says, Hader's not going to be our closer right now. So-and-so is. That tells the reliever Hader that I don't like you. I don't have any confidence in you. Even though he said we're going to need him down the road. That's the politically correct thing to say.
Well, Nick Martinez has gotten the job done, though. And Hader's had 5 opportunities that he's not been able to.
So put him in a different role. Try him out one time. And just all you have to do is bring him in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
Gets the job done. And you could say what other people have said in the past. Well, I felt like those guys were the most important guys of this game to get out. And I need my main guy to get him out.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, I'm still one of his guys. I want to be that 9th inning guy, but he feels like this is the hardest thing. So, okay. And then, get that 0 under your belt, get a good inning in your belt and get that confidence. Just because as a closer, as soon as you lose confidence, you're done. You could ask any closer. As soon as you start second guessing yourself, you feel like the manager's second guessing yourself, the players are second guessing yourself. It's really hard to be that dominant guy again. It really is.
Yeah.
I had that in Miami. Ozzie Guillen didn't think I was doing the right thing. Even the catcher was like, you got to just listen to me and we can get these guys out. I'm like, but I don't pitch like that. Bud Black used to get mad at me because at 3-2, I used to throw a 3-2 curveball. And he's like, you're throwing 98 miles an hour, throw 98. Mm-hmm. But I go, that's my game. That's how I pitch. And they're like, you need to throw 98. I'm like, that's not how I pitch. So there's a philosophy there. It really is. I mean, if you're not confident as a reliever, you're done. You can't just go up there and go, don't hit this pitch. I hope I have a good inning. Because it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Do pitchers ever go and like take therapy or like do like any like sort of therapeutic workouts to kind of clear their head?
It's called the weight room.
Like
honestly,
retreats.
A good reliever or something, the best thing is you got to forget about it. You got to
easier said than done, though. I mean, it's always
that's why closers come and go. That's why relievers come and go. If you can find a guy that literally can just let it go, like Rivera or Hoffman, then you have Hall of Fame guys.
Yeah.
But you can have guys that are good for a couple years, and as soon as something happens, shit happens. I mean, I was really good for a 5-6 year span, and then all of a sudden Ozzie Guillen didn't like the way my style, and neither did the catcher in Florida, and I really never became a closer again because it was, well, we're not sure. And then I went to Arizona the next year. JJ Putz didn't do well, and then they brought me in to close, and I closed. I think it was I was 6 for 6 for save opportunities, but our team lost first place, and they went with Brad Ziegler. They're like, yeah, we gotta switch it up because Ziegler's going to be here next year, and we don't know where you're going to be. I'm like, well, I have another year, but they traded me. That was kind of the M. I knew I was getting traded then.
Whack.
So it's just one of those things that it was a little frustrating, but it was like I did my job.
Yeah.
I was 6 for 6. Like,
seems like there's a lot of things that are out of your control when you're a reliever.
well, especially, yeah, because here, plain and simple, do you think Bob Melvin wanted Hader out there, but then AJ was like, no, that was a horrible trade. We should not have had him out there. We need somebody else out there. And he probably said, okay. Because, I love Melvin. I do. But I think he's, Oakland, he listens to the front office too much.
Yeah.
He will please them, but I think he's good for players. But I think when the front office starts managing a game or coaching a game, that's wrong.
Definitely.
I do not like that.
I hope we get back on track, though. We're running out of time here, but we got to get this offense going. We got to get the bullpen, their confidence back, starting pitching, keep doing your thing. Let's hope all these guys get healthy. Soto was scratched with back tightness, but hopefully that's
really
just
quick.
precautionary.
Kansas City, we should be able to beat. San Francisco's this next, we should, everybody in our division we're playing, Kansas City should be one of those teams that we should be able to beat. And then it's go time. We're playing everybody in our division. You want to win, we got to beat those games. So every game's going to mean something. So we still have a chance. We still do.
If you're a playoff team, you win these games. This is Ring the Bell Pods Talk. Nick Kreider, Heath Bell. We'll see you next week. Go Pods.